That'll be a 6 p.m. Central Standard Time start. And then the following night, on the 26th, they will be going to Washington to play the best team in all of hockey, the Washington Capitals, that also being a 6 p.m. Central Standard Time to start. So you get the best team in all of hockey on the road on the back end of a back-to-back. That's a tough one. Very important, I think, that we come out tomorrow night, get that winnable game in Philadelphia before likely losing to Washington. Then after that, we've got a day off, followed by, I believe it would be a Sunday game then, a Sunday afternoon game at 2 p.m. against the division-leading Panthers. And then coming up on the 1st, right around when we'll be talking to each other again, we have a very important game at home against the Avalanche. 1st of March, competing with them for a final wildcard spot. That game will be huge. We got to get at least one out of the next 3. I think the at-Flyers game is the easiest. And plus it's the 1st, so let's just start with that one and go from there. All right, now let's take a quick look at the NHL point standings real quick, and then we'll get off Balls on Ice. So, my and possibly your Minnesota Wild currently have 64 points, and they would be the 9 seed basically in the Western Conference. They take the 3 top teams from each division and then 2 wild cards. And the final wild card spot is currently held by the Colorado Avalanche at 66 points, and we are 2 points behind them. The next team behind them, as a matter of fact, at 64. In front of them would be the Nashville Predators with 69 points. Then getting to then the next 3 best teams are all in the Pacific Division with 69 points the Sharks, with 70 points the Ducks, and with 74 points the Kings. And then the 3 best teams in the Western Conference are all in the Central Division. The St. Louis Blues with 79 points, the Blackhawks with 81, and the Stars with 82. Moving over to the East, which is the Wild's next set of opponents, as I mentioned, their next game against the Philadelphia Flyers. They're one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. They only have 63 points and are not in the playoff picture. However, our opponent after them, as I mentioned, the Washington Capitals, is the best team in all of hockey with 92 points, a full 10 points more than the next best team, the Dallas Stars. In the National Hockey League, they are followed by the second best team in the Eastern Conference is the team we play after the Washington Capitals. That's the Florida Panthers. They have 75 points, leading the Atlantic Division. Then we've got the Rangers with 74 points, the Lightning with 72, the Bruins with 72, the Red Wings with 71, the Islanders with 71, and the Penguins locking down the 8th playoff spot at the moment with 68 points. However, on their heels with 67 points are the New Jersey Devils, and with 66 points would be the Hurricanes. 63 points would be the Canadiens and the Flyers, and bringing up the way rear in the East would be the Columbus Blue Jackets with 56 points, the Sabres with 55, and the Maple Leafs with 50. And the Maple Leafs are tied with the Edmonton Oilers, who also have 50 points, for the title crown of being the worst team in all of hockey. So, there you go. John Torchetti, bada bing, bada boom. Hockey talk done for tonight. Let's go on to Balls Dribble, where we talk some basketball. Alright, so in the NBA, we start with my and possibly your Minnesota Timberwolves, who 2 nights ago on Monday night won a freaking game. Can you believe it? It was a home game against the Boston Celtics. They did everything they could in their power, the T-Wolves did, to try and blow this game at the end. However, the Celtics' game-winning shot missed, and the Wolves were able to emerge victorious in a horribly inaccurate way to word it. 124 to 122 over the Boston Celtics. A win's a win, and for the most part the team looked really good. Big Cat Karl Anthony Towns is freaking phenomenal. This is a superstar franchise foundation centerpiece, building block, Hall of Famer. Could not be a bigger fan or believer in Karl Anthony Towns. Now, the kid from Canada, who we played tonight, by the way, the T-Wolves played the Toronto Raptors here on Wednesday, and they lost, even though they were in it the vast majority of the game, and right up until the very end, they had chances to win it, but just couldn't figure it out. So they fail in their effort to get back-to-back wins by losing to the Toronto Raptors here tonight, this Wednesday. So our main topic of Wolves discussion for this week's show is it's something that has been there all year, but after watching both the win and the loss in these past two games, is just horribly evident to me what the number one issue, the number one concern, the number one problem is ailing the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'll give you a minute to take a guess, place a wager. Again, if you're still with us, playing the at-home balls deep gambling and or drinking game, neither of which I condone or condemn. And especially if you listen to the show or you know me, you know there's several routes we could go with this, but take your guess, get it locked in, officially put away, and I will tell you what the answer is. Now, maybe you think the Wolves' biggest thing holding them back, ailing them, is Ricky Rubio. Not a bad guess. Not all that wrong either, but for this specific question, not the correct answer we're looking for. If you're thinking it's our young players still needing to improve, like Zach LaVine and Andrew Wiggins needing to figure out how to be consistent and how to play defense and how to have a basketball IQ that is collectively in the positive numbers. But nope, it's not that either. Perhaps you think it's all the money that we are paying Kevin Martin, as well as Tayshaun Prince and Kevin Garnett and Andre Miller and Nikola Pekovic, who, by the way, is now out indefinitely on injured reserve, basically for the rest of this year and maybe forever. And he's guaranteed like freaking $12 million a year for another year or two yet. Like, it's just, these horrible throwing away of money in roster spot signings that we got. That's a very close second. That is a very close second. However, we could still overcome that and not be a championship team, but be a respectable team that, is in a much better place than it is right now. If we would fix the number one problem ailing the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that is they don't have a coach. Sam Mitchell stinks as a head coach, or at least as the head coach of this team. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Sam Mitchell. I was a fan of Sam Mitchell's when he was a player. I was a fan of Sam Mitchell's his first time around here as coach, until he proved to everybody that he couldn't coach. Now, I don't want to forget, let alone come across as insensitive to the circumstances that got Sam Mitchell in the position of being the head coach of the Timberwolves this year. We all know how that happened, and that was unfortunate and unforeseen, and we all know it wasn't supposed to be this way. That being said, this team and this franchise, with the amazingly talented young pieces that it's already got in place, it will not ever grow into being even the 8th seed in the playoffs without good coaching being brought in to develop these young players. Andrew Wiggins and Zach LaVine are two of the most talented basketball players you'll ever see, and they are only, slightly better than average when it comes to their production levels. I'm sorry, that's the way it is. What you expect from their position, from their role on the team, and from their skill levels, they're not doing it. They're not doing it consistently. They're not doing it to a great enough extent. And I'm concerned that neither one of them are going to grow and develop the way we need them to as long as Sam Mitchell is the coach of this basketball team. Zach LaVine and Andrew Wiggins combined appear to have a basketball IQ that's somewhere around negative 14, give or take. And, well, don't get me wrong, a lot of that is on them. At least some of it is on them. They're young, and that's what you have a coach for. Like, they're 20 years old. This is the NBA. It's the best of the best. It's the fastest of the fastest, the biggest of the biggest. It's not their job to teach themselves. That's the one thing I'll say in their defense, without question. It's not their job to teach themselves the game of basketball and how to play at the NBA level. That is the job of the veterans that are on their team, and most importantly, that is the job of their head coach and the other coaches on their coaching staff. And it is painfully obvious that those players are not improving and developing the way we need them to. That being said, it's also painfully obvious that they have the skills and the tools necessary to do so. They're just not getting the guidance at all, and that falls 100% on Sam Mitchell. I feel that Sam Mitchell is a good basketball mind. I feel that Sam Mitchell is an okay basketball personality, but I feel that Sam Mitchell, for whatever reason, is not a good head coach of basketball. He's not a good NBA head coach. He's a good NBA assistant coach. He could maybe even be a good college coach, possibly. I don't think he would. But for whatever reason, he's just not a good coach. It's not that he's dumb, when it comes to the game of basketball. I believe in Sam Mitchell's basketball IQ being adequate. Just for whatever reason, he can't put it all together and apply it on a night-to-night basis, or seem to be able to respond and react, when something unexpected gets thrown in his way that he needs to counter. So the biggest problem for the T-Wolves is the coaching. It's really holding us back from being better now, and it's going to continue to hold us back from making the improvement that we can make and need to make here in the near future, or we're just going to see all these young, super talented guys be here for 3 to 5 years, and then the first chance they get, they're all going to be out of here and go make a name for themselves and be successful somewhere else. And we're going to be stuck with year number not only 12 in a row of not making the playoffs, which is where we're at now, but you're 13 in a row, and you're 14 in a row, and you're 15 in a row, and you're 16 in a row. I believe that with the right coaching and just a few doable minor tweaks, I'm not even talking about trading Rubio or anything like that, with just a few basic minor roster tweaks and a real coach, this team will be the 7th or 8th seed in the Western Conference playoffs next season. But the most important thing that needs to happen for that is a real coach needs to be brought in here. Not just a coaching change for the sake of coaching change. A real coach. Someone who's good at coaching. Which might be hard to find. And as far as taking a look at the league standings in the NBA goes, the Golden State Warriors are still the best team. They have won 50 games or more so far. The last I looked, they were 50-5. That's probably changed since the last I looked, but they are still the best team in all of basketball, followed by the San Antonio Spurs, followed by the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then the 4th best team in basketball. Finally, we go out east, and we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, and everybody else is kind of just, playing for paychecks and fun. So, there's your league-wide standings look. All right, we're not done with balls dribble quite yet, though. Balls on dribble. Jeez Louise. We're not quite done with balls dribble just yet. While we did talk pro basketball, we do have a little bit of college basketball to discuss, as I mentioned early on in